Board. Okay, welcome everyone to Let's Talk Live. My name is Noelle and I will be helping to moderate tonight's program. Please use the sidebar chat to share where you're joining from. We love hearing from you around the world. And we ask that you invite others to join MyOCN community and join yourself if you haven't already. Membership is always free. And you'll be the first to learn about new programs and new opportunities to connect in person and online. We are a welcoming community available any day, anytime, and anywhere. A few reminders: please be respectful and polite with the opinions of others. Please remain muted when you aren't speaking. But of course, as always, we encourage you to leave your questions and comments in the chat. You can also send them to me directly if you're on Zoom. And if you're joining us live on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to post your comments there and I'll check in on those as well. This is a live program. It's being shared on our MyOCN Facebook page and also our MyOCN YouTube channel. We will also have it available on the website after the program so that you can share it with others. MyOCN Orthodox Christian Network is a 501c3 corporation and a 100% donor-supported ministry. So we thank all of you that contribute financially to support these programs. We ask you to consider us in your end of the year giving. And we also appreciate everyone that engages with our programs, shares our content. We always love hearing from you. You can email us at myocn.net. Or info@myocn.net, I'm sorry. Anytime you want to give feedback, suggestions, we like hearing from you. And also you can find all of our upcoming events on the community calendar. So be sure to check in on that, especially as the holidays approach. We may have some changes in the schedule, but also a lot of new exciting programs coming up. So without further ado, I will turn things over to Father Chris.
Thank you, Noelle. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we have, again, a very special guest, Dr. Albert Rossi. I want to just give you a couple of sentences about what we're going to speak of tonight. We'll then begin with a prayer, and we'll go right into our conversation with him. And as Noelle said, please know that you can pose your questions as well, either in the chat, Facebook, wherever you're at this point. So Christ lives and works through us. We are his conduits on the planet. Our life experience is our personal narrative, continually evolving and continually growing into the best person we can become. This episode will explore becoming a healing presence by sharing our experience of God in our lives. We'll begin with a prayer. Heavenly King, Comforter, the Spirit of truth, everywhere present, filling all things, the treasure of blessings, the giver of life, come and dwell in us and cleanse us of every stain and save our souls, O gracious one. Dr. Rossi, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Father Chris. It is really a deep and profound joy for me to be sitting on my couch. This minute happens to be 7 o'clock New York time, 4 o'clock your time,
Yes,
with such a golden opportunity to talk about things that we really care about most. We really do.
Well, last time you spoke of the power of the narrative. Please tell us a bit about, I guess, your own narrative, your own spiritual journey.
Yes. Yes, it's about becoming a healing presence. And I would like this evening to be as interactive as is possible. So Father Chris, I'll ask you to please call on people when I ask you to do that, simply because I think that we can do that more. Becoming a healing presence. That's what we are trying as best we can to deal with. Bear with me one moment.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Healing presence. So that's our call. And we'll deal with how as best we can. And as the last two times, I will begin with my wife singing, "Oh, had I a golden thread," because I am on the golden thread. Here she is.
Oh, had I a golden thread and needle so fine, I would weave a magic strand of rainbow design. Of rainbow design. In reach my magic hand to every human being so he would understand. So he would understand. Oh, had I a golden thread and a needle so fine, I would weave a magic strand of rainbow design. Oh, rainbow
So, Father Chris, that's where we begin. Golden thread. And those of us on this screen right now, all 14 of us, slowly become more aware that we, I, you, each, is God's golden thread that he's using to weave his tapestry called his body on this church. And all we have to do is be ourselves by growing more into him in us. So this evening we'll deal a bit with personal narrative. What that means is my story about my life as I understand it. That is, it is interior, it is thought, it is personal. Now, we would say God is present in every moment, every activity of my life. None of us can do any good on our own at all. I can't see, I can't hear, I can't think in any creative way. God gives all of that to me. But as humans, we only understand it episodically. That is, we see specific instances that fold it together. And that's what this is about. And every time we do this, we come by a new, more developed, deeper, more profound view of what God is doing in our lives. So the real question of personal narrative, as I look back on my life, what are a couple few instances where I can actually now see God's hand in my life, God leading me, God directing me, God being loving me into what he wants me to do and be. So you asked about my personal narrative. I'll give you a short overview, then talk about a couple of specifics, and then ask all of us to try to think about the personal and the specifics in our own lives. I was raised Roman Catholic, went to Roman Catholic grade school, high school, college. In college, was engaged to a lovely co-ed for 3 years. My senior year, I began to get this idea, and now I see it as God's hand in my forehead, in my heart. Maybe you should be a monk. Well, that did not fit any of the patterns that were being laid out. There were 4 couples of us that would go to each other's homes at holidays. And we were all on the same to get married, have a family, and be good Christians track. And I tried to talk to her about it. She wanted no part of it. We're getting married, right? Well, yeah, right. Well, short version of that, after graduation, I had to break up with her and enter the monastery, and was a Roman Catholic monk for 11 years. That's a whole, and they were really good, scandal-free, fruitful years. I'm really glad and proud to have done all that. Left for good reasons. Again, the Holy Spirit through my mind, that's a whole separate story. But I now see God's hand drawing me in and drawing me out. That's very clear to me. So that I would do God's work while there. And now, having left So I left, and then 2 years later married. Married 19 years. My wife is dead, has been dead for a long time. We have 2 children, 5 grandchildren. And what can I say? I'm the clinical psychologist at St. Vladimir's, and I've done bunches of work there. Specific instances, I'll name one more then. I'll ask you, Father Chris, to see if we can get some of our participants to share one time now they understand God's hand directly into their lives. We only understand life retrospectively. We can only understand ourselves.
We can do that. We can do that to those who are willing to do it. But there's one question I'd like you talked about college, monastery, breakup, marriage. When did you become an Orthodox Christian?
Great question. When I left the monks, I had a crisis of faith, left everything, Vatican Council II, aggiornamento, and became a Quaker. Met the woman who would become my wife. She was also, though raised Orthodox, then spiritually lost. So we got along fine. We were both Quakers. And married Roman Catholic to please my parents. Never went to a Roman Catholic service after that. So after we 2 years later had Beth, then my wife began to go to St. Vladimir Seminary surreptitiously because she had been raised Orthodox but had left it for good reasons. So one day she said to me, Al, would you go to a divine liturgy with me at St. Vladimir's? Oh, sure, honey. It's as if she said to me, would you go to see the American Ballet Theater, which we would do often. So I went. And then for 2 years, we would go to a Quaker service one Sunday and St. Vladimir's the following Sunday.
Wow.
And I was fine with it. And Beth was fine with it because they both served good cookies. And that was our life. Crazy, but that's the life we had. So one Sunday, so I'd wake up and say, where are we going to myself, where are we going this Sunday? Oh, the Quaker service was no service at all, no homily, no incense, no nothing. Just begin silently, end silently, have cookies and talk. Good group of people, really socially activists. Or the next Sunday, St. Vladimir's, which was full of wonderful singing and incense and so on. One Sunday, I woke up and had this clear thought. It wasn't a decision. It was simply an awareness. It's time to convert to Orthodoxy. As simple as that, as simple as these words are in this little, that's the way my life worked at that moment. And I know now that was really God's hand bringing me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Doctor. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if there's anyone else that feels comfortable sharing their own experience, how God has touched their lives. But I think Dr. Rossi is asking us to engage in conversation. So you can just kind of signify by raising your hand and letting us know. It doesn't have to be, a 2-hour talk. It could just be something that's brief, a couple of minutes of where God has touched your lives. I know he's touched my life in many ways, but I want to hear from you guys. Anyone want to share anything? Noel, any signs of hands being raised, or is everybody still frightened to talk?
I don't see any raised hands, but if anyone wants to unmute themselves, they can go ahead. You have the ability to unmute.
Okay.
And you can also, if you don't want to speak out loud, post in the chat as well.
Post in the chat. Okay. All right. So let's go on until maybe people get a little bit of energy. How's that?
Well,
It's 7
fine.
o'clock at night on the East Coast.
But Father Chris,
Yes.
people are reflecting. It's so important for us to continue to reorganize our understanding of our life in God terms. Do you have one instance now that you can be aware and share about God's hand in your life?
Oh, I have many. I mean, I could share one. There was a woman who was very, very ill when I served St. Demetrius in Fort Lauderdale, as I say, suffering for Jesus under the palm trees where I was. And this poor woman, I won't mention her name, was extremely ill, extremely ill. They told me When I went to visit her, she's dead. She's gone. And I went in and I prayed with her and I read some prayers for her. And all of a sudden she looked up at me. She says, "Father, what are you doing here?" I said,
What are you
"Well,"
doing here?
I said, "they told me to come pray for you." She said, "I'm fine." She said, "They keep telling me I'm dying. I feel great." Especially with God's presence, with you there, God working through you to my life. And I mean, that's one of, countless numbers of experiences.
That's great. And it touches my soul, and I don't doubt the souls of all of us. Noel, is there one thing in your life that you can now understand God's handiwork?
It's so hard to, I was just thinking about how everything in my life feels that way in retrospect. So I feel I've always had a hard time making decisions and sort of knowing where to go with my life. One thing I can think of, well, many times it's been through friends, people that I felt compelled to befriend, or to start a relationship with no real reason, no like no obvious reason why I should become friends with that person. Two examples of that: my best friend for almost 20 years now. I didn't have a lot of friends in school. She didn't, and I wasn't that popular either. But I remember one week just feeling really compelled to blow off everyone else and reach out to her. And we had never really spoken before. I called her back then. There was no social media or anything, so I just called her on her parents' phone using the school directory, and it turned out that she had been bullied by the other kids in school. That's why she was so quiet, and we ended up being friends. We're still best friends now. And then the other example I can think of, and there was no reason for me to do that, which is why it stands out to me. And I hope she doesn't see this though. but and the other instance,
But the beautiful part of that is there was no reason for you to do that, but we now understand that it was God prompting you to do that.
exactly,
Every good thought we have comes from Him.
and the other example I can think of is when I was in college. Really, I didn't grow up very religious. When I was younger, my family was not religious, and the reason why I started attending the Orthodox Church regularly was because of a professor at my school that I befriended before I had really even taken. I don't know if I had taken any classes with him yet, actually, when we first spoke, and I ended up taking several. But I remember just having a question come into my mind, and I just thought I should ask that professor my question. And it was kind of a personal question too. It was about faith and spirituality, which was not his subject. And I just thought, I'm going to ask him. And he passed me, all these Orthodox books. And
Interesting.
yeah,
That's interesting.
Everything in my life feels that way.
No, thank you, Noel. I think another one I'd like to go to, Dr. Rossi, would be Dr. Maria Curie. She really holds the line of faith with her family in the Palestinian area. And I know she's on. I don't know if, I know she's had many experiences where God's presence has been in her life. She's there in an Israeli-Palestinian sort of a very difficult line. Maria, can you share anything with us about your experience of where God has been in your life?
Well, Father Chris, if I've never met my husband, David Corey, at Helena College, of course, I wouldn't be doing anything of what I'm doing now, which is promoting his village, the only Christian village that exists in Palestine. But when I'm 18 years old at Helena College and I want to serve the Lord, I didn't know in which way to serve the Lord, because I'm not allowed to serve the way that you serve, because women are not allowed that way. So I was exploring, and the road that opened up for me was because I married David Corey. And of course, it's been a journey that is, full of, joy in the Lord and suffering and war and occupation. And now that I look back at it, I see, wow, well, thank God I married my husband, David Corey, or else I wouldn't have done the things that, and now I can't do anything. Of course, after this 2 years, this Corona world, my life has come to a complete stop. So I think everything was by the grace of God. Everything was a miracle in my life almost, because I really don't know. I have 10 books. I don't know how those books were written. I do think it was the grace of God. I'm so grateful. My favorite professor, God rest his soul, Father Stanley Harricus, has edited all the books. And, you know, people don't read books anymore, of course, but thanks be to God. I just don't know the things that I used to do. They're just.
Are you in Palestine now, or are you here in the States?
I'm saying hello to you from Guatemala today.
Guatemala. Wow. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Maria. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. God give you strength. Really, you're a tremendous person. Thank you.
Father Chris, may God strengthen you in every way. Really enjoy. I listen in because I love you with all my heart, and God rest Presbytera Georgia soul in peace too. And I listen in because it's comforting to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Dr. Rossi, you want to go to more people? How do you want to do it?
Well, I think this is an extremely important segment of this program, Becoming a Healing Presence, because this is how we do it. It's all about identity, and I begin to know more. I live now, not I, but Christ lives in me. It's not my life. And it's not that Al Rossi has done all these great things, blah, 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 blue, 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 wrote 2 books. But no, it's about Christ doing these things through me. And the more I see myself as a humble conduit through whom fire goes, and I do that by explicit memories, as Noel and you and Maria have shared. We do that with each other. This moment then propels us to see our future moments more in terms of God's presence than my doing, because we're all to some extent narcissistic and egocentric. So I'd like you to please call on another person too.
I'm seeing Pat Gogos, who's been with us for many, many years. Pat, would you like to share anything? I think you're on mute. You're on mute right now. We can't hear you, Pat.
We can't hear you.
You are muted.
I'm sorry. I really am not ready to share anything at this moment. I'm sorry. I was so engrossed in whatever everyone was saying. I didn't think inwardly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it's good to see your face at least, and your smiling face too. God bless you. Let me see. I see Stephanie Scardellis there. Hi, Stephanie. Got to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Same here. You know, I think when we look for God's presence, sometimes that's difficult. We think, where's God? But what I do is like, I think of what I'm grateful for, where there's gratitude. And then all of a sudden things open up and I see everything that he has a hand in. I remember my parents were both very ill at the same time. It was extremely difficult and sad for me. I'd never experienced that. And I didn't know where I was going to get the strength. And somehow God gave me the strength to get through it. And I can remember one time my father was in the hospital. He wasn't dying yet. He was ill. And a nurse came in. It wasn't the regular nurse. And she checked everything out. And then she handed me a little Post-it. I'd never met her before. And she had written down, may God give you the strength and courage to carry on. And I was so, you know, and then she left. So for me, that I'll always remember that.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Now we've called on lots of women, so it's time to go to the men. How's that? Men are really shy about sharing. I know how it is. But as you get older, you get more sentimental and you're able to kind of open up a little bit. So let me go to, and if you don't want to speak, I respect that. I see David. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Oansea? I'm not sure.
Oansea.
Oansea.
Yes.
Hi, David.
Yes.
Where are you from?
I'm in Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, very good, David. Is there anything that you'd like to share where God has touched your life?
Sure. So I went to, I guess most of my whole life, I wanted to be a physician. So when I went to college, that was my plan. And during the second year, I just felt in my heart that I needed to change the direction. And so I went home for Christmas that year. I never told my parents what was on my mind, but I told them I felt like I needed to go to seminary. And they were shocked, and they supported me, though. So I finished college and went to St. Vladimir's, actually. Went through the MDiv program. And I guess the other point of it was that my parish priest planted a seed. During confession one time, he said, you're gonna go into the medical field, and doctors heal bodies, but the priest heals the soul. So that just really stuck with me. And so that I really felt was a calling. I never felt at another time in my life that I had to change the direction of my life. It was a different way. I mean, it's appropriate for this particular segment about healing. This idea of physicians are in the healing arts, but so are clergy, so are those who work in the church, and not just the clergy, but all Christians, and so we can be a healing presence in so many ways, and so that's really what I wanted to share.
Thank you, David. Did you become ordained? Were you ordained after your studies there or not?
I was a deacon for about 22 years. I was a priest for a couple years, but I had gone through a divorce years ago. And I still work in our diocese and for my bishop, but I decided to remarry. That just seemed what it was best for me, and so I still serve, just in a non-ordained way.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you for sharing that from your heart. That means
You're welcome.
Means a great deal. Dr. Rossi, I'm going to go to one more male figure. Let's see if he'll open up. I'm not sure. Jim Stasios. Jim, would you share anything with us? You would have to unmute. Jim Stasios.
Father, I think I figured out how to unmute.
Is this Jim?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Jim. Can you give us your camera or not?
I just don't think I'm appropriately dressed to be on camera right this minute. So
No
I'm in
problem.
my Greek festival t-shirt, so I'll just leave it at that if it's okay.
Well, they tell me I have a face for radio, so that's okay. Don't worry about it, Jim.
I'm in the same home parish with Basil the comedian, so you can tell how some of that rubs off.
Okay.
Way back when I was, I guess in my early 20s, I had volunteered to go with our young Goyans to a basketball tournament in South Carolina and we had 3 carloads of youth that were going down. And another advisor that was going down on the spur of the moment went down there, and after 3 days, we came back home. We went out to dinner, and I asked her to marry me. And we've been married for 43 years. And somehow, I think the Lord had his hand in it. And we have been very close to the church and work for it as lay people in different capacities. So that's the one that came to mind first, but there are many others as well.
Great, Jim. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Rossi, I want to go back to your book for a minute. I think it's an important statement here that you make. You talk about dark asceticism and light asceticism. Can you give us a little bit more on that?
Yes, I'd love to. From my point of view, asceticism has as its purpose to become more light, more relaxed in God's hands, more joyful, more peaceful, and to use the word, more happy. So that, and I use the metaphor of a pendulum. That's the center of the pendulum, but a pendulum's always in motion. So one of the extremes, non-orthodox asceticism, would be secularism. La dolce vita. I want what I want when I want it. Thank you. And I want all the goods in this world, and I want heaven too. Well, that's not orthodoxy, and it doesn't lead to contentment. And the other extreme is dark asceticism, which stresses striving and doing the right thing and saying 100 million Jesus prayers a day. That also is not leading to a sane, relaxed in God's hands orthodoxy. And I would say within orthodoxy today, both extremes are very, very present, especially the dark asceticism. I'll give you a little example of dark asceticism. I was a monk. And in those days, Roman Catholicism was rife with Jansenism. I didn't know it. I didn't care. I was just there. I wanted to do the right thing. But the day was very long, up at 5 o'clock in the morning, silence all day long, no radio, no television, all outgoing, incoming mail was censored. And if you had to say something to another human being, you had to say a little thing. I loved it. It was okay. This is what we do. Come Lent, the novice director said, anybody who would like to do a little extra, put pebbles in your shoes, come seek permission. So Dodo me went to him, and said, can I put pebbles in my shoes for Lent? And he said, yes, sure. So for Lent and the rest of the novitiate, I had pebbles in my shoes. At night, when I took my shoes off, the bottom of my feet were purple with irritation. It's no fun having pebbles in your shoes, but you can't limp. You can't. But I knew there were like 100 of us in the novitiate, really good, scandal-free humans, but I knew who had pebbles and who didn't. The only question is, was that a good thing to do or not? Question now. And my answer is absolutely not. It was not a good thing, because I was saying to myself, I can live this rigorous life and say the whole office in Latin, prime, terse, sex, known, vespers, compline every day. And more than the others, I can have pebbles on my shoes. It only exacerbated pride. That was then. Now that's still rampant in Orthodoxy. I had a couple of seminarians come to me beginning of Lent and say, Dr. Rossi, can we have your permission to go on an all water fast the first day of Lent? I said, hey, I'm not your spiritual father. Go ask your spiritual father. You're asking my opinion. My opinion is absolutely not. If you want to do something the first day of Lent, look around for a fellow seminarian who looks a bit despondent and see if you can cheer him or her up. But the only thing that's going to happen if you go on all water fast, the second day you can say to yourself, oh, those other seminarians needed potatoes and lentils, and here I am, I can only have water for 24 hours. So striving and adding anything can be a real temptation within Orthodoxy. And we swing back and forth. I know I have those temptations. Just do a little bit more. You're not doing enough. St. Irenaeus says, relax in God's hands. And the church gives us sufficient asceticism. Within a few days, we're going to be.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure, Dr. Rossi. No, those are very good points. There's another question. You tell us that your 9-year-old grandson asked you, Papa, who do you love more, God or me? What went through your mind when he asked that question?
That is an actual experience of mine, and that was God's hand in my life. We were in bed, and I have, with my 5 grandchildren, same ritual. I go in bed with one of them. We say prayers, tell a story, read a book, and then we make up another story. So it's a very relaxed, loving, intimate time, just one-on-one. At the end of it, Colin simply said to me, Papa, who do you love more, God or me? And that happened twice. It happened once in the car as well. And I know what I was thinking was, here's my unvarnished thought, oh crap, I don't need a teaching moment right now. I don't have my thoughts together. I don't even know how to answer this. he doesn't want blah, blah, blah. He wants direct answer, God or me. So by God's grace, I could look him in the eye and move my head closer to him. Very softly and sweetly, I said, I shrugged my shoulders and I said, God, just that. And from what I could gather, he was okay with that. He didn't press it any farther. And that was the end of that conversation, and I was glad. However, a couple months later, when I went back, same sort of scene, I said to him, Colin, do you remember when you asked me that? Yeah, Papa. I said, well, now it's my turn, if you don't mind. Who do you love more, God or Papa? And his eyes went out of focus. He had no idea. He didn't want to, offend Papa, and he didn't know what I could tell he was just way out of his water, which is what I wanted. So I said to him, well, Colin, if you don't mind, he said to me, a wonderful sentence, Papa, what is it you want me to say? Like he had just tell me what to say.
Mhm.
So I said, God. He said, okay, then I'll say God. But there was another teaching moment for him, whatever was going on with him. So that has become a mantra for me and my grandchildren. So now with Aiden and Caitlin, I can do the same thing. Who do you love more, God or Papa? And then talk about a little conversation. And it was the same question of Abraham about, Isaac. Who do you love more, God or Isaac? But in my mind, I was not at all fond of getting that question then. Now I am. It's like, we talk about it at length, and that's been a few years, and I can still talk to him about it and go a different little route about loving God through loving humans, but always loving God more because he's the creator. So yeah, that's what that is.
I remember a young woman in Boca Raton where we used to live, and she and my late wife were very, very close. She and her husband have 12 children, and we had 6. We have 6. So I talked with her one day, and I said, aren't you worried? I mean, what do? How do you keep all this together? 12 children, all this stuff. And she said, Father, she says, I know that God loves my children more than I love them. So I am very much at peace. And I have to tell you, that knocked my socks off. I said, wow, that is the statement. That is the statement. So if we get worried, we have to realize that there's someone else holding us there. And we can't ever forget that. Noelle, do we have any other questions? I have one more question for Dr. Rossi tonight.
Go ahead with your question, Father.
Okay. Why do you often say to a person who seeks your counsel, be gentle with yourself?
It's a great question. And I continue to process that in my own mind because I still do counseling with seminarians, both male and female. As a clinical psychologist of 35 years, I had an office in downtown Manhattan, saw the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor and all in between. And frankly, virtually everyone came to me with the same question. I never called them, they called me. I'd like an appointment with you. I hear good things, blah, blah, blah. They come, okay, few little comments. What is it I can do for you? They all say the same thing. Doc, I need peace. I have 3 new cars and an indoor swimming pool and children in college, but I don't have personal peace. What I've discovered with seminarians and others, that we humans, the real task of us is to love ourselves as God loves us. And that's a Herculean task. And he said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. We have to love ourselves first. And you know what? All on this call and humans generally, we don't love ourselves sufficient and properly. And properly means properly disciplined and properly ascetical, neither extreme, and focused and having a purposeful life. I know why I'm on the planet because I'm doing God's work right now. That's clear to me. And I hope it is to all of you. That said, then most people are overly critical of themselves. the best of priests I know, deep down, tell me that, oh, I really have, when I give a sermon and someone says one little thing to me at coffee hour, negative, and 99 people say something positive, I come home with a little negative comment. Our minds are fallen about ourselves, and we overly criticize, I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. So the real task in counseling for me is to ask people, be gentle with yourself, which is a way of saying love yourself a bit more. We all sin. St. John says that. Okay, we do. We just say, Lord, have mercy. But we don't obsess about our sin. We don't look at our shoelaces all the time. We become more gentle, more kindly with ourselves. I could go on and on about that, but that's this
Okay,
summary.
very good, very good. Thank you. Noel, we have time to go to our guests if they would like to ask any questions of Dr. Rossi. Otherwise, we'll wrap things up for tonight.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, but if anyone has a question they haven't put in the chat, feel free to use the raise hand or unmute yourself.
Okay, let's wait a moment for that. And if not, we'll move on. I hope that you will all purchase Dr. Rossi's books. There are a number of books, as you know, through these programs that we recommend. This healing presence is a very important thing. It's something of, it's healing yourself so you can heal others. And that's so, so important. If you look on the front of the book, it's a magnificent image. It has a bunch of rocks, and then it looks like river rock. And then all of a sudden, this little sprout comes out and opens up. And that's what we're about. All of us have rocks that are on us. And the key is to break free of the rocks and allow God's presence to be with us so we can heal others as well. Any questions, Noel?
Christina, go ahead and unmute yourself, or go ahead and speak, Christina.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say, Dr. Rossi, I'm such a big fan of yours. I listen to you on Ancient Faith Radio. I think you're fantastic. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Christine, to say a prayer for me, and I will for you after this program.
Thank you,
Very
Dr.
good.
Rossi.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, so we'll have the closing prayer. Again, Dr. Rossi, thank you for being with us tonight.
My joy.
Let's pray, and then we have a couple of sort of finishing announcements to make. Lord, now let your servant depart in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared for all people, a light to enlighten the Gentiles and the glory of your people, Israel. Noel, I'm sure you have some announcements to make.
I do. So upcoming programs, we have on Sunday, we have adult education on our YouTube channel with Michael Haldas. That's from 11:30 to 12:30 every week, but we record the videos, of course. It goes live, and then it'll be available on our YouTube channel. You can see any of the past episodes as well. Also on Tuesday, we have our weekly Tuesday Armed with Faith program, and that program is with Father Gary Kyriakou. We talk about ways to serve our youth and young adults in the church, whether we're talking about mental health, religious education, summer camp, engagement in the church, all kinds of things. And this upcoming week, we'd really like to hear from any youth or people that work with youth that want to contribute. We really want to have a conversation this upcoming week. So if you know a young person, a teen, a young adult, a child, if you want to come on with your kids, anything, I'd really like to talk about. We've talked to a lot of people that work with youth, whether in summer camp, whether at the Metropulos level. We want to talk to youth about what their experiences have been, what they need, and really allow people to hear that feedback. So we encourage any young people or parents of young people to join, ask questions, give feedback on that program. That's Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can sign up on our website. Also next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. as well, we have our next episode of Living Icon with Father John, and that is a program talking about building relationships, having healthier relationships with each other, and growing as spiritually mature Christians. And then next Thursday on our Let's Talk Live program, also at 7 p.m., we have Father Nicholas Laubach, and he's going to talk about renewing you, a priest, a psychologist, and a plan. So we already had one episode in the series. We're going to have him back to talk about that book, which he co-authored with his wife. And that is everything for next week. And then, of course, the following week, we will be taking a break for Let's Talk Live for Thanksgiving. So you can find all these upcoming programs. You don't have to remember everything I just said. They're all on the website. They're on the calendar.
A lot there. There's a
Those
lot.
up. And yeah, we look forward to engaging with you again.
Okay. There's also the third issue of our magazine, Orthodoxy Now, that will probably come out maybe this weekend or early next week. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. The Children's Word is something that you can share with your children. It's a printable download for you to have. And we have 3 new programs coming out of the Ascension Cathedral in Oakland, California. That will be happening very, very soon. Thank you for being with us. May God bless you always. Thank you for your support. As Noel said in the beginning of our program, we're in our end of the year campaign. Whatever you can give, monthly, quarterly, one time, whatever that is a tremendous help. Realize that we are now reaching 950,000 to 1 million people a month. That is an incredible responsibility. I don't say it to boast. It's an incredible responsibility. So please help us to continue to offer the best that we can. Remember, you are the wind in the wings of the angels that carry this message around the globe. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.